All right, gentle people, this is one of the most powerful videos you might ever watch, okay? Because this will literally change your life. It can change your running, your relationship to running. It can change your posture. It can change how you see the world, how the world sees you. This can be, for some people, like taking the red pill in the Matrix or the blue pill, whichever pill you took, okay? It can literally be the catalyst for a spiritual awakening. And I know that sounds pretty extreme, but what the flow rope can bring to your running and your life and your movement is change you from a reactive person, okay, that guards and defends and kind of sees the world as happening to them, into a creative person, and you learn to move from the center out and you learn to move with creativity and authority. And I promise you, for many of you, it'll totally change your life. So this is a big deal. So let's get into the flow rope and the basics, and this is specifically for endurance running, okay? So I'll just talk you through what the flow rope does, what it doesn't do, and what we want to figure out about it. The first thing we want to play around with the flow rope is, I like quite a thick flow rope, okay? You can swing it slower and you can feel more, and we want to use it to pattern our fascia and create movement opportunities, okay? There will be a link below where you can buy a custom made from Lorenzo flow rope. The other thing in terms of height of a flow rope, pretty much if you hold the handles, we want a vertical forearm. And why have we chosen, sorry, I stood in something uncomfortable. Get away, there we go. I chose that metric because when I swing the rope, I can either touch the ground or not touch the ground with very little movement. So, bless me. Okay, no edits, no takes, no cuts. What you see is what you get. Sorry, that's the deal so far. Right, so we can swing the rope and touch the floor or not touch the floor. And that's about the perfect height. Yeah, we hold the flow rope in an A shape between our hands, like A-OK. And generally speaking, it comes out this way. The first thing we're going to do with the flow rope is hold both ropes in one hand, and we're going to swing it backwards. Right, swinging the rope backwards, you'll feel your shoulder blade working. Okay, so I'm swinging underneath. If I was flicking stones, I'd be flicking them towards you. It's kind of like a softball pitch, right? And you'll feel your shoulder blade working. And generally speaking, it's helpful to think about this. It's not an absolute thing. This will stimulate or work your posterior chain. Okay, if I swing the rope down, my pec will work, and this is generally anterior chain. Now, anterior chain can be thought of. The front of the horse is the anterior chain. The back of the horse is the posterior chain. If you were a chimpanzee, or if you just decided to get onto all fours, you'd pull the ground with your front legs and you would kick with your back legs. What we very much want in running is, when you're running, is to extend or kick with your back leg and use your glute max as the primary source of driving in your running. So we're about the posterior chain. It's very common for people that have had trauma, hard sitting, falls, crashes, sitting in desks since kindergarten, computers, cycling. We go to painful withdrawal. It's very, very common for people to be anterior chain dominant or stuck on down. And so some of you might find it extraordinarily difficult to do what we're going to do next, which is take the rope in two hands and swing it backwards in a figure of 8 pattern. Okay, so many of you will be totally unable to do this. So yes, I'm looking at you right now. You're not swinging the rope backwards. You are chopping down. So you're totally stuck in an anterior chain pattern. If that's you, it's really important that you open up the posterior chain pattern, because it opens up brand new movement pathways and it gives you the ability to express yourself when you're running. You don't want to be locked into a pattern that you have no external agency over or control over. Okay, if you're really battling to swing it backwards in figure of 8, we're going to do a little a side help or a little blurb into how to do it. Okay, so we put the rope, we hang it over our necks, and just don't think about the rope quickly. Okay, link your fingers, and if my fingers weren't linked, my elbows would fly apart. I'm going to turn my forearms to 45 degrees, and then we're going to watch this elbow back from 12 o'clock, back, round, down to 6 o'clock. Once, don't rush please. Once you're at 6 o'clock, find the elbow that's at 12 o'clock and watch it back, down, round to 6 o'clock. Then find 12 o'clock. Okay, it's very, very common for your brain to do glitchy things round about now. The matrix is going to glitch. And so you're going to go there and then skip and watch that elbow from 12 to 6. Have a little pause, find the opposite elbow, watch it backwards from 12 to 6, and then slowly link it up. Okay, your brain will glitch, it'll jump because it's not safe, it's not secure about this. You're not good at looking back and over your shoulder, you're not good at rotating your shoulders in a posterior infinity loop. Okay, so you're going to cop out and do all sorts of weird things and glitch. Okay, so we want to be slow and gentle and careful with ourselves and just figure this out. And after a while, you'll get to the point where you feel like you're rowing or paddling a canoe backwards. Okay, it's like backstroke, or it's like the Matrix when he dodges bullets, right? We want this posterior figure of 8 in our shoulders. Now we can go back to the rope and we can swing from behind. So start with the rope behind you, up and over, up and over. I'm doing backstroke. Okay, and you need to learn how to swing the rope backwards, figure of 8. And the majority of the work that we do while we're trying to help our running is underhand or backward swinging, because it animates your spine. It really, really wakes up. So watch my spine from behind. You're waking up your spine, your thoracic spine, mobilizing your shoulders. Okay, we're waking up and animating and putting life into our spine, and then we can have access to a spinal engine, which is one of the biggest assets you can have in your movement artillery. Okay, I was going to say library, but I think artillery is a better word. So that's posterior figure of 8. And again, swinging backwards or doing this movement is the best way to learn how to do that. If you're still really battling, you can swing one hand and then swap over to the other hand. And then after a while, you can put 2 hands on. Okay, you'll find it really, really easy to swing the rope in a figure of 8 forwards. And probably most of you are doing that, not recognizing that you should be swinging it backwards. So please, it's incredibly common for people to swing the rope chopping down for 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks realize, oh, hang on, I was swinging the rope the wrong way around. Okay, your brain is not going to want to do, for some of you, swing backwards. Okay, once we have backward figure of 8, the next thing is we can learn the exact shape and timing of running. And what it is we stand on this leg, our head comes across over the standing leg, and we want the rope to hit the ground. So it's everything happens on the same side at the same time. There's a way of thinking of it. So I'm going step, step. It's best to learn to march in place. You can hit the ground, the rope on the floor. It makes a nice audible sound. You're stepping as the rope hits the ground, head over foot. Don't be scared to let your head go from side to side. Okay, your head will get you into trouble. Learn to get out of it sometimes. And then you can walk forwards. Okay, and you can walk backwards, and see if you can just do like 3 or 4 steps forward and 3 or 4 steps back, not losing that time. And that is the exact shape and timing of posterior chain running. And yes, your shoulders roll backwards. And when you figure it out in a run, you're going to go, oh my world flipped. It's the wrong way around. It's going to feel crazy to you. And then you're going to be watching everyone's shoulders and saying like, are their shoulders going forward or are their shoulders going backwards? Okay. And then after a while, it doesn't matter anymore. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit now about anterior chain. So we obviously have anterior chain for a reason. If we cut out our anterior chain, we couldn't run. So there is a duality. We just want posterior chain because it allows that hip extension. So if you were taught to run on your forefoot, maybe you're a minimalist or barefoot runner, and you've really worked on your cadence and picking your feet up off the ground, one of the interesting things is when you swing here, and the rope hits the ground, you'll tend to pick your foot up because you're flexion dominant. Okay, we want to be extension, putting your foot down dominant. And it's very common for people that have worked a lot in cadence or flexion or hamstring drills or hip flexor drills to be flexion dominant. So you'll go pick up, I've got to think about this. Cars are ruining my YouTube video. Okay, pick up, and then I can't do it. Pick up, okay. And you don't want to be flexion based. You don't want your brain to think when you run that it's all about flexion. You'll just tighten up and twist and get injured and asymmetrical. Okay, we move with length and space. You've got to learn to step, step, head, foot, step, step. And that reframing from the active thing in running is picking up off the ground to the active thing in running is pressing into and trusting the ground will totally change the way you run and make you way more efficient and way less injury prone. Right, so now anterior chain, so the front of the horse, we need and we use it for, so if you Google flow rope, you'll see a lot of anterior chain kind of exercises and people drilling down in it because it kind of works your core. So if I'm swinging down, you'll feel your core working more. If I swing backwards, I'm going to work my posterior core, my back, okay, or my central core, my spine. But if let's say you've been a tippy-toe walker your whole life and a 4-foot runner your whole life, you need to learn how to run on your anterior chain because it's going to be very, very difficult. It might take a long time to transition to posterior chain, or you might not make it, okay? But if you've been taught to run on your 4-foot, or you learn to run on your 4-foot, or you're trying to run on your 4-foot, and also if you know, some people say, oh, well, I'm not a 4-foot or rear-foot, I'm a mid-foot runner. You need to run with your whole foot, land on your heel, rock forward, and roll off your toes. And we'll do a video on this, okay? But anyway, so anterior chain we need for sprinting, running up hills, or accelerating, okay? So if we're going forward and down, if you are a 4-foot runner naturally, because some people just are, okay, but most people are engineered or taught or tried it or thought they had to, we can do anterior chain and it's the same. It's head, foot, rope, head, foot, rope, head, foot, rope, head, foot, rope, and you can practice that exact pattern, okay, of head on this side, on the landing foot, as your rope goes down, swinging forwards, and that'll give you a sense of exactly how you should run up a hill or sprint or accelerate and use your spine as an engine. Okay, so that's kind of flow rope 101 basics entry. We want to do this about 5 times a day. Often when you're learning, you can do it 5 times a day for we need to do it for about 5 minutes a day, I apologize. Often when you're learning, you can do it 5 times a day because the more frequently you practice, the quicker you'll learn, and often what we learn today will show up tomorrow. So you might be really frustrated today, but tomorrow this work shows up for you. Okay, so that's that. Future videos and things that you need to know about is we like the drag, and it's called the drag and roll, okay, but we learn it by dragging and rolling because this really, really helps, this really helps runners put healthy transverse movement on a connected core into their running. And if you look at drag and roll from the side, it's really fantastic for my shoulders and my head on top of my shoulders, shoulders on top of my hips. Just remember, if your head's forward, you'll destabilize when you run. So we really like as the next thing to learn after you've got your head of a foot, head of a foot, head of a foot, is to learn the drag and roll or drag and roll. And then other cool things you can do with the rope, link them over like this, swing backwards, it really works your shoulders, okay, and you can practice a little bit of swimming, high relaxed recovery going forward. It's a great sort of targeting more shoulder flexibility and getting your shoulders off your neck. Okay, so if you like this, share and subscribe. If you're competitive and you want a competitive advantage on your friends, don't share it and subscribe. Take care, everyone. Learn to love yourself, learn to move with confidence, learn to move with trust. If you move better, you're going to make the world a better place, and we want a world that's a better place, don't we? Okay, take care.